now would like to invite Mahesh Makhija, Technology Consulting Leader, EY, to join us on stage to present the idea of India generative AI's potential to catalyze change.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we have copies of the report that you can go over, take back home with you, read the fine print. But for those of you who haven't had a sneak peek at it, I'm going to get very quickly the big reveal, the big numbers.
Thanks, Shireen. So the report will be with you soon. Just three things I want to say about the report. One is, it gives you a state of the union of India. We polled around 250 execs across different industries and just got a sense check of where they are on AI and generative AI. And the findings, spoiler alert, no big surprises. We found that almost 3 in 4 of them not prepared, not clear on where the value is going to come from, how the technology will evolve, what are the use cases. But the flip side, huge amount of optimism. I think what the first deep dive in terms of what will be the GDP impact of this technology of India, our findings are that by 2030, it will add almost $1.5 trillion to the Indian economy cumulatively. So really, really optimistic, and do give us feedback after you read it.
I'm very, very excited about our next session. We are calling it How AI Can Turbocharge India, How India in Startup Inc. can leverage generative AI to race ahead in business. And I am so delighted to welcome Shri Priyank Kharge, the Karnataka Minister for Information Technology and Biotechnology, Rural Development and Panchayat Raj. Bangalore, you can do better. A bigger round of applause for your IT Minister. Joining him on the panel, Mahesh Makhija, EY, India Technology Consulting Leader, Dilip Jose, MD and CEO, Manipal Health Enterprises Private Limited, Kevalya Vora, Co-founder and CTO, Zepto, Arindam Banerjee, Executive Vice President and Country Head, State Street, India. Priyank, I'm going to start with you, and you are one of the biggest brand ambassadors for everything Karnataka, everything Bengaluru, and we've had a day of a lot of discussions around AI. Bangalore, Delhi would argue, Bangalore is India's startup capital. Does everyone in the room agree? Yes. Do you think Delhi NCR is a startup capital? No. Okay. But do you think it can be India's AI capital?
Let's be very honest. If any innovation that needs to happen in the world today, it's happening right here from Bengaluru. We have matured from being the call center of the world to being one of the leading R&D centers of the world. Out of the top Fortune 500 companies, we have more than 400 of them here. So from a call center of the world, we have moved to R&D. From R&D, now we have moved to being the most disruptive city. In the innovation index, we have been consistently number 1. In the World Innovation Index, we are number 8, and we are trying for a number 5 slot now. And I think in India, in the Indian scenario, the startup valuation, you were saying that Delhi might be a potential competitor. Hyderabad, I always get a lot of flack from Hyderabad.
I'm going to ask you about Hyderabad.
I'll come back to that as well.
Yeah.
So, $384 billion is the unicorn, is the startup unicorn valuation. Out of that, $186 billion is from Bangalore alone.
Wow.
186, 52%. IT exports, we are number 1. Aerospace and defense innovation, 65%. Biotech and bio services export, we are 60%. Manufacturing, innovation in manufacturing, we are number 1. And all this is just not my data, it's data by leading research institutes, and more importantly also from the central government.
Well, we have a unicorn right here, so no doubt.
Yeah, and we have 44 unicorns here in Bangalore and 57 soon-to-be unicorns.
Unicorns.
So
right.
Show me any other ecosystem in India which is coming close to me.
Great.
Not a single one. So if you're asking if AI is going to be the next disruptor from Bangalore? Yes, it is. We are going to be the capital to ensure that more disruptions happen. Already we are considered the 5th best city for AI adaptability in the world.
What more can the government do in terms of encouraging, this new ecosystem? We have Mahesh on the panel who will take us through how industries also are adopting generative AI significantly. But from a government point of view, what else can be done?
So we are doing 3-4 very important things which I think is crucial to the ecosystem. Number one, we are heavily focusing on skill development in emerging technologies. We have formed a skill advisory council which is talking to industry and trying to understand what is it that they require within their sector for us to ensure there is nurturing of talent, leadership, incubation and also innovations. Number one. Number two, we are coming up with centers of excellence across sectors. We are coming up with a center of excellence in health sciences, life sciences and medical products where startups can come and experiment or incubate with us. So irrespective of the sector, whether it's gaming, whether it's AVGC, whether it is wireless technologies, we are game for that. So we have these various centers of excellence that are coming up. Number three, we are also trying to come up with a very disruptive public procurement policy. Sometimes what happens is the startups can be as disruptive as they want to be, but if they don't have a client, it's very difficult. So why can't government be their first customer? And for scaling, if it's going to be, it's going to have a huge social impact, government is the only place where they can scale. So you have a health product that needs scaling. So the government is going to play a role in that, wherein in this public procurement policy, we give opportunities to startups to come and pilot with the government. And number four, we have something called the Global Innovation Alliance, where we have partnered with 33 countries. So startups that are disrupting the ecosystem right here in Bangalore or in the country, we give them networking access, market access to these countries, to our partner countries also. Like I said, the talent is here, the innovations are happening here, the IPs are being generated here, but the market access and adaptability is there as well. So through our Global Innovation Alliance members, we will be ensuring that the startups that are here get networking access, market access, funding access abroad for 33 countries also. So we have kept it very simple. These 4-5 things we are doing, that we maintain our leadership position in this sector.
Mahesh, you've also released a report today that talks about how AI can turbocharge India, and that was a crazy statistic, right? It can add almost $1 trillion, the application of generative AI by enterprises. If you can quickly tell us, if this is already happening, has it moved from mere proof of concepts to actual application?
So I think we've done a deep dive. I think the report is now distributed, so we'll really love all of you to read it and give us feedback. But a few facets of that. One, to your question, Chandra, we did a survey of 200 C-level execs, kind of getting a state of the union of what's happening. I think right now, huge amount of optimism. Almost 82% feel that it will impact their business positively. When I say it, I mean generative AI will impact their business positively. But the flip side is 3 out of 4 are still confused on various things. Where will the value come from? What are the use cases which they should deploy? How should they build it? How should they protect against hallucination and all of the other data privacy, concerns? Also the cost. It's a very dynamic equation right now. We talked a lot in one of the earlier panels on GPUs and the cost and the changing equation. So should you use OpenAI or should you open source models? What should you do? So there's a lot of thinking in the report, which you'll see about what's happening in India today, where the execs are, where the boardroom is. That's one part of it. Then we conducted what I think is the first deep dive into the GDP impact of generative AI. So our prediction is, and it's there in the report, the calculation is also there. There's a very detailed calculation in the annexure. You should take a look at that. We think that over the next 6 years, until 2030, it will add cumulatively between $1.2 to $1.5 trillion in GDP. And again, there's a sectoral breakdown of that. So massive amount of impact possible across, different sectors. And last but not the least, there's a very big agenda in terms of the regulatory, the policy agenda and the regulatory aspects of this, right? And we talked a lot earlier. There's probably 4 things which are important. We've discussed it, I think, all day today. There's chips, there's data, there's talent, and then there's distribution, right? So we talked a lot about chips earlier. I won't go into that. Talent, obviously, even the minister just cited that. That's huge. But data is the one which I think will actually get us ahead. If you go back and think about what happened in, some of the early revolutions in AI, it was the ImageNet challenge where you tagged a lot of images collaboratively and then you used, CNNs to do it. I think the same thing is going to happen. Now think about in India, if we could have privacy preserved data sets being made available. Right? It could be healthcare, it could be UPI, etc. If you could anonymize those, make those available, and then you train models on that instead of just World Wide Webs, you have much better foundation models.
Right.
So there's a very big aspect, of that as well. So I think those are some of the areas which I believe are in the future. Lots of optimism, and yeah, do read the report and give us your feedback.
Great. Dilip, since he said sectoral, I want to ask you about what Manipal hospitals, what are you doing as far as AI in healthcare is concerned? Have you already seen some applications?
The conversations, the interaction with patients and their families oftentimes is through conversational AI or chatbots is something that we are already put in place.
Right.
We actually, we are the first one in India to use wearables to track patients outside of the hospital, Often, let's take an example of a patient who had an angioplasty, an interventional cardiology procedure. He or she needs to, by the 3rd day they are home, but then at home they need to be active, they need to exercise, they need to do stuff. So we, along with, at the time of discharge, we give them a wearable that, which...
This is your own wearable device?
No, I mean, we have a venture with Google Health. We give a Fitbit, and this is a unique, collaboration that we have with Google Health. We give a Fitbit to them and, they wear it, and we have an app which tracks them. And, we sort of prod them when they have been inactive for a long time, and also maybe give a nudge when they have to take the medication. And what we are finding at the back end, Chandra, is that people who are on wearables and on this tracking is recovering much faster, much painless after a joint replacement surgery, for example. So this is already proven. Now, this is external facing with the patient. Now look at what happens in the hospital. It is now quite common to run all the imaging, the radiology, the output through an AI layer, not replacing a doctor, but that AI layer could flag areas of concern and, send the images to the doctor. It increases the patient safety. So that again is something which is already there. But I just also want to take a minute to sound a word of caution that, we all day we talked about the potential and positives about AI. Healthcare is one where we have to be a little careful. We would need a framework. We would need guardrails. The reason is that unlike many other sectors, we are dealing with vulnerable people here. That, it's a very different context compared to somebody in hospitality or financial inclusion. So we have to use AI and should always be cautious that we take the business angle out of it. That, I don't as Manipal or I don't as healthcare sector, do not use AI because it also promotes further consumption of service and revenue. So that is a line that we have to draw.
Kevalia, we saw a presentation recently, I think by SoftBank, where they spoke about how Swiggy is already using AI on their app. How is Zepto using AI?
Yeah. Firstly, thank you so much.
To deliver groceries in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever the current...
10 only.
10.
Still at 10. Yeah, I think, so obviously it's not been a very long time, right, since we started, about 2.5 years now. And it's only last year that we started, initially we were just figuring out the basics of the business. So it's only last year that we started hiring a couple of data scientists and figuring out what the right problems are to solve. And thankfully, like you said, not just Swiggy, but a whole bunch of companies in India and globally have done a lot of fantastic work that we were able to build on top of, where with a very small team, like today also, our data science team is not very big. It's like 12 people, right? That's for two reasons. One is like talent is still quite a bit of a problem, but even with a very small team, we're able to build on top of what they've done and not have to reinvent the wheel, right? That being said, I think now we're coming to a place where a lot of the previously solved problems, we've already sort of implemented solutions to those, and so now it's like, what's the next big thing that we can do? To talk about what we've already done, I mean, there's countless examples. I think some are a little more boring than the others. I'll start off with the boring ones and come to the more exciting ones, but...
or you can start with the exciting one.
I'll build up, slowly. But for example, on supply chain, right, we have a large network of warehouses, some large ones, some small ones, and figuring out, like forecasting is a very basic thing that any retail business has to do, right? And especially given that some 40% of our business is perishable stuff, right? Fruits, vegetables, dairy, bread, low shelf life items. The risk of expiry, right, just hits your bottom line pretty directly. And so being able to predict how much demand there's going to be and just the right amount, because you don't want to be out of stock and you also don't want to have too much that gets dumped at the end of the day, is one big one that we use it for. Route planning for our trucks that replenish our dark stores. On the last mile delivery side, which is the right delivery partner, we have a variety of vehicles that we use. We're trying to push bicycles and EVs a lot more now. I think today it's like 30-40% of deliveries. By the end of next year, we want that to be 70%. But you can't use them for very long distance deliveries, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's a customer I want to prioritize and make sure that maybe it's the first time they're using the app, I want to make sure that they have a fantastic experience. Maybe I won't give that order to a bicycle and things like that. So on the non-customer facing side, there's a bunch of more boring ones that just we do just because they sort of improve efficiency bit by bit. On the customer facing side, there's a bunch of exciting stuff as well. I think primarily personalization and recommendations, right? Groceries are we have a lot of data about people because they order like thrice a week, right? So if someone's coming to the app 12 times a month and ordering, we're able to get a pretty good idea of not just what they're buying, but what they're looking at also.
Got it. Arindam, the minister spoke about Bangalore being the AI hub, but it is also the GCC hub. The number of companies that have opened up GCCs in Bangalore. But tell us about generative AI and how you're applying it. Cavalier gave a number of examples, both on the B2B side as well as the B2C side. But in terms of financial services, where do you see the scope?
Thank you. So I think just to start with Bangalore, and I completely endorse everything that the minister just stated, which is there is a hub or a magnet over here which allows all global enterprises, they get the cross-section of skills. They get the cross-section of skills which build businesses. So, sometimes the labeling as a GCC is a misnomer because actually all of us are managing enterprises over here are actually managing significant intellectual builds for our corporations globally. So as an example, I represent State Street, which is it is the world's largest custodian bank, and our clients are basically investment managers and the top investment managers of the world and their investors, right? So we build at the core of it our front-to-back alpha trading platform integrated with our back office services that we provide. Now, in that whole trading life cycle, generative AI is actually being sort of input at various stages of that, all the way from great investment advice to hyper-personalized customer support at the end of it. So it is actually being applied at different points of the trading life cycle of the business chain. And if you look at where you can get such a ecosystem which allows all of the different skills, whether it is trading skills, research skills, technology skills, customer service skills, this is one of the few cities in the world where you can do it, actually.
On that note, I think we are out of time, but thank you very much, Minister Mahesh, Dilip, Kevalya and Arindam for this fascinating discussion.